Revealed 1 hour to discover the hidden secrets of life-changing billionaire lifestyles. Jake wiped the sweat from his brow. The scent of motor oil and grease clung to the air like an old friend. He was a mechanic, but more importantly, he was a father. At 38, with a hands-on approach to life, he had rebuilt countless cars, but nothing prepared him for the struggle of keeping afloat in a town slowly crumbling under economic pressure. Each shuttered storefront whispered of dreams lost, and with every meeting in his workshop, he felt the weight of desperation creeping in like the evening chill. And yet, there was Lily. His spirited 8-year-old daughter brightened his world, her laughter an antidote to the gloom outside. They had their routines pancake Sundays at the local diner, her favorite day of the week. But as the diner's closing soon sign appeared in the window, Jake felt a sharp pang in his chest. It wasn't just a diner, it was the heart of their community, the place where friendships blossomed over steaming cups of coffee and warm syrupy plates. Life got even more complicated when Alex walked back into Jake's life, a shimmering figure of success who had chased the American dream and seemingly caught it with both hands. As they shared stories over a rusty toolbox, Jake felt a flicker of envy igniting within him. Alex's tales of luxurious getaways and endless possibilities were intoxicating. It stirred a longing in Jake, one that made him question his place. Were his values noble or just a cover for stagnation? "Why don't you join me?" Alex proposed one evening, words dripping with promise. "Together, we could build something big." As the allure of quick riches beckoned, Jake's heart raced. But with this new path ahead, he found himself drifting away from Lily. Missing school events, neglecting movie nights, he was chasing a dream that glittered but felt so far removed from the warmth of his daughter's grit. The town's deadline loomed closer as the diner's announcement hit hard. It was set to close within weeks. If the diner went, so did the sense of community. Jake felt the pressure mounting, alongside the guilt of not being there for Lily. Could he stimulate the community spirit while also chasing wealth? Fueled by misguided hope, he scrambled to leverage the connections he'd gained from Alex's seminar to save the diner, believing this was his moment to be both the dependable father and local hero. But when his plan crumbled, the fallout was swift and painful. He felt the betrayal etched in the disappointed gazes of neighbors and the cold distance from Lily. Doubt consumed him as he grappled with his choices, an avalanche of regret piling heavy in his chest. Just as he realized the true wealth lay in love and community, a wave of laughter drifted from the diner, a bittersweet reminder of what mattered most. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake stood at a crossroad, his heart pounding with uncertainty. Would he mend the broken trust with Lily and his community before it was too late? The possibilities stretched before him like an unpaved road, waiting for him to make a choice. In that moment, he knew it was time to embrace the challenge ahead, time to uncover the true essence of success. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the empty streets as Jake walked home. Each step felt heavier, burdened with the weight of his failures. The thought of Lily waiting for him, her eager smile faltering as she realized her father had betrayed her trust, stung painfully. He didn't just owe it to her to be present, he owed it to himself to make the right choices. He opened the door to their small house, the familiar creak, a reminder of days filled with laughter. But tonight, it felt different. The silence pierced through him. As Jake stepped into the living room, he caught sight of Lily on the floor, surrounded by crayons and half-finished drawings. She looked up as he entered, her face lighting up momentarily before settling back into confusion. "Daddy, are we still going to make pizza together tonight?" she asked, her voice laced with hope. Jake's heart sank. How could he explain that his ambitions had pushed him away? He knelt down, taking her little hands in his, warmth enveloping them like a safety blanket. "Lily, I'm so sorry. Daddy's been really busy." The word stalled in his throat. The battle inside him surged. I want to make things right, but I need your help. Lily blinked, her blue eyes wide and trusting. Can we help the diner together, then? Everyone says it's closing. We can make it better. The idea made Jake pause. This was the spark. Lily had a point. As children often do, she saw a possibility where he saw doom. Yes. We can. Hope ignited in his chest. They could rally the community together, harness the collective spirit that had begun to fade. With newfound energy, Jake grabbed a notepad and began to write down ideas: fundraising events, a community cook-off at the diner, car wash Saturdays to gather donations. Every scribble burst with potential. Lily watched intently, her chin resting on her hands, excitement shimmering in her gaze. What if we invite everyone? Even people from outside the town? Lily suggested, bouncing on her knees. Like, they can see how awesome our diner is. Jake's heart swelled. Her innocence struck a chord deep within him. Great idea, kiddo. We'll make it unforgettable. After hours of brainstorming, Jake felt a mix of exhilaration and something almost foreign: determination. He could do this. More than that, he had to do this. Not just for the diner or himself, but for Lily and the entire community counting on him. The next morning, as he stood outside the diner, a sense of urgency pulsed through him. He felt the weight of judgment, the gazes of neighbors who had lost faith in him. Breathing deeply, he stepped inside. The familiar smell of bacon and coffee was a welcome embrace, but the empty tables reminded him of what might be lost. Hey, everyone! He called, his voice echoing in the silence. Curiosity spread among several patrons. I know it's been tough, but I have a plan. I need your help to save this place. He laid out his ideas. With each suggestion, he could see the shift, a spark igniting in their eyes. Old friends engaged, some even laughed at small reminiscing jokes. Slowly, the walls began to shake off the dust of disillusionment. As they huddled to discuss, Jake felt a warmth spread through him, but just as he began to feel momentum, a familiar voice called out, Jake, you're back. It was Alex, stepping into the diner with an air of confidence that still made Jake uneasy. What are you doing here? Jake shot back, trying to keep the tremor from his voice. I heard about your little plan, Alex said casually, glancing around at the gathering crowd. And I think I can help. But your way might not be the best way to go. The tension in the room thickened, each neighbor looking between the two men. Jake's gut sank. Did he really want Alex's involvement after everything? Or would it derail everything he was trying to protect? Now, as Jake squared his shoulders, he wondered if he had the strength to stand firm. Was this really the right path? In a moment that felt both pivotal and fragile, he faced his old friend, resolve building within him. No, Alex. I believe it's time for a different kind of help. The right kind. The silence that followed was deafening, yet Jake felt alive, ready to fight for the heart of their community. But in the midst of newfound confidence, an old fear crept in. What if he was wrong about everything? What if it was too late? Would he be able to mend the bond with Lily and the town before it was too late? Or was he set to lose it all again? The quiet stretched between Jake and Alex like a taut string, ready to snap. The faces of their neighbors blurred into an indistinct crowd, but Jake could feel their anticipation. They were waiting to see how this would play out. It took every ounce of courage to hold Alex's gaze, and deep down, Jake knew he couldn't let fear dictate his choices anymore. Listen, Jake finally said, his voice firm. I know you have your ideas, but I want to do this together as a community. Not as individuals chasing profits. Alex's eyebrows raised, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. No one is saying we can't have fun with it, Jake. But if you're not willing to think big, you'll just end up letting the diner go down with all your good intentions. An uneasy murmur spread through the crowd. Jake felt their unease weighing heavily on him. He needed to shift the narrative back to the heart of the matter: the diner, the community, and most importantly, Lily's hope. Alex, I get that you see things differently, Jake pressed on, his gaze unwavering. But these people. They want to save the diner. They want to support each other. Money can't buy that. As the tension simmered, Jake noticed Lily peeking through the diner's swinging door, her small frame framed like a beacon of light. She stepped inside slowly, clutching a pink crayon and a piece of paper in her hands. Are you guys fighting? She asked, her innocent voice cutting through the heaviness. Jake knelt down to her level. No, sweetheart. We're just discussing how to make this place special again. Lily's gaze shifted between her father and Alex, and then a thoughtful expression crossed her face. What if we made posters and used my drawings, too? Everyone loves them. We could decorate the diner. Her suggestion hung in the air like a spark ready to ignite. It was simple but profound, a child's way of showing how to weave together community threads. Suddenly, Jake felt the warmth return, buoyed by Lily's creativity and drive. Lily's right. Jake beamed, shooting a hopeful look at those gathered. We can showcase the talents and ideas of every single person here. Let us decorate the diner with art, with stories, and with memories. Encouraged by his daughter's enthusiasm, the crowd buzzed with excitement. They began brainstorming how to put their skills to work. Someone suggested a mural depicting the diner's history, another chimed in about organizing a bake sale where everyone could contribute. Each idea added to the mosaic, turning the struggle into a rallying cry, but just as the collective energy swelled, Jake felt his chest tighten. He turned back to Alex. What do you say? Want to help us turn this into something bigger than profit? Alex paused, eyes narrowing slightly. You think this will really matter? Will these little drawings change anything? Hope is a powerful force. It can bring people together in ways you can't measure, Jake replied, his heart racing. Will you be a part of that? For a long moment, Alex remained silent. The tension hung thick, the crowd holding their breath. Jake prayed for a sign that they could move forward, not as adversaries but as allies. Finally, Alex shrugged. Maybe it's worth a shot. I can help with the promotion if you're willing to reach a wider crowd. Relief washed over Jake, and he felt a deep breath he realized he was holding escape his lungs. Okay. Let us do it. Together. As applause broke out from the crowd, Jake's eyes sought out Lily. She was bouncing with joy, her drawing waving in the air like a flag of hope. In that moment, everything felt possible, but in the midst of his newfound optimism, a voice within him whispered. What if they didn't have enough time? What if the get-together failed? Jake pushed the doubts aside, determined to see this through. The diner needed a boost, and so did he, both for Lily and for the town they loved. As plans unfolded and laughter filled the space, Jake caught sight of Alex watching, a flicker of uncertainty in his expression. Was this change just a facade waiting to crumble, or was it a real shift toward something meaningful? Just then, the diner door swung open with a bang, and a figure stepped in, a woman with fiery determination in her eyes. She glanced around the diner until her gaze landed squarely on Jake. You're Jake, right? I heard about your plan. We need to talk. It's urgent. A pulse of anxiety shot through the room, leaving Jake to wonder just how deep the complications would run. What unexpected twist awaited him next? Jake's heart raced as he took in the woman standing in the doorway. The vibrant red of her jacket seemed to radiate energy, contrasting starkly with the worn-down diner's muted colors. There was an urgency in her eyes that sent a ripple of anxiety through the crowd. Whispers buzzed through the onlookers as they glanced at each other, confusion and curiosity flourishing among them. Who are you? Jake managed to ask, his voice steady despite the chaos inside him. Name is Ava, she replied, stepping further inside as the door swung shut behind her. I've been in town scouting for potential investments, but I didn't come here for profits. Her gaze locked onto Jake's. I've seen what this diner means to you and to the community. Jake exchanged a quick glance with Alex. He could sense the gears turning in Alex's mind, uncertainty battling with the potential of new opportunities. "What do you want with us, Ava?" Jake asked, trying to keep his tone steady. "I want to help." She took a deep breath and continued, "I heard about your plan to revitalize the diner. I think you can do so much more. But there's a catch." The room fell silent, the earlier buzz of excitement now replaced by tension. Jake shoved his hands into his pockets, his mind racing with possibilities, but also alarm bells. "What kind of catch?" "I have contacts. People who can provide funding and resources, but it requires a shift in your approach," she explained, her words flowing rapidly, the passion behind them clear. "Think beyond just decorating the walls. We're talking events that could draw outsiders, partnerships with local businesses, maybe even a food festival." Lily, who had been drawing on her paper with fervor, looked up, her big eyes sparkling with hope. "A food festival sounds fun," she chirped. Jake felt a warm rush at her innocent enthusiasm. Ava smiled at Lily, but Jake couldn't shake the unease that threaded through his excitement. "What's in it for you?" he asked, probing deeper as an eyebrow arched in suspicion. "Why should we trust you?" Ava's eyes softened. "You don't have to trust me yet. Just consider it an opportunity. But there's no beating around the bush. I need results, and I need fast. I'm talking weeks, not months." The idea of rushing everything felt overwhelming. Jake glanced at Alex, whose expression dulled. "If we put on a festival, it will take time and effort. We've just started to build something here," he said, wrestling with the pressure of Ava's proposition. "But it can be the spark the diner needs," Ava countered, undeterred by the pushback. "Imagine people lining up around the block, music filling the streets, the smell of delicious food wafting through the air. But it requires everyone to rally behind it, including you too." Jake felt a knot tightening in his stomach. He wanted to believe in the vision Ava painted, but a shadow of doubt also whispered that it could be his biggest mistake. "And if we fail?" he questioned, the tremor of vulnerability evident in his voice. "Then you've done what you could. But I truly believe you want tea." "I can help make this happen," Ava replied, her determination seeping into her words. "You just need to trust in the possibility of what could be." Jake weighed her words carefully. The diner, the community, everything rested on this decision. Could they really harness a chance like this? Would their careful plans hold up against the unpredictable tide of ambition? Lily jumped up, clutching her drawings tight to her chest, clearly enthusiastic about the idea. "Let us do it, Dad. Let us make it super fun." But doubt loomed like a thundercloud. Jake's mind raced, battling the fear of rushing into something uncharted against the undeniable glimmer of hope sparkling in his daughter's eyes. "Okay," he breathed finally, but the word felt tentative and uncertain. "I don't know how we'll do this, but let us explore it. Let us see what it could become." As tension eased slightly and murmurs of excitement started anew, Ava smiled widely, and validation flowed through Jake. But deep inside, his heart still heaved with the weight of unanswered questions. Had he just ignited a flame that could burn brightly, or one that would consume them all? "Good, then we should meet soon and start planning," Ava replied, her voice steeped in energy. Just then, the door swung open again, this time revealing a local couple, their faces pale. "You need to see this. Something is happening at the old mill." Jake's pulse quickened as confusion swept over the diner like a wave. What was now unfolding in their community? As worry etched deeper in the faces around him, he realized this new chapter held more than just the diner's fate. It might just determine the very heart of their town. What challenges awaited them just around the corner? The couple rushed inside, their breaths coming in quick gasps. Jake felt a rising tide of apprehension. The old mill had been abandoned for years, a skeletal structure looming at the edge of town. It was the kind of place that sparked ghost stories and legends, but nobody went there anymore. Jay's discomfort grew. "What's going on?" Jake asked, his voice barely breaking through the urgent whispers filling the diner. "The mill, it's on fire," the woman exclaimed, her hands trembling. "We saw smoke from our house. It looks bad." Gasps echoed throughout the room. The diner's patrons were suddenly restless, the earlier excitement dissolving into a rush of worry. Jake's heart slammed in his chest. The mill was not just an old building. It was a piece of their town's history, but it was also precariously close to the diner. "Is anyone in there?" Alex asked, urgency in his tone. The couple shook their heads, eyes wide with fear. "We didn't see anyone, but we have to do something. If it spreads..." The man's voice trailed off into a heavy silence. Eva was already moving. "We need to call the fire department. Get everyone out of here. We don't want anyone getting hurt," she commanded. Authority swelled in her demeanor, and her hands moved as if she was directing a symphony. Jake felt torn. He wanted to help, to run outside and do something, but the thought of leaving the diner and Lily made him hesitate. "Lily, stay close, okay?" he said, crouching to meet her gaze. She nodded, eyes wide with uncertainty, but trust was glimmering there too. "Everyone, listen." Ava's voice sliced through the tension. "We need to act fast. Can anyone call the fire station? We also need fans and hoses just in case it spreads." "Jake, should we evacuate the diner?" Jake nodded, the words tumbling out of his mouth in a rush. "Yes, let us get everyone out. We can't take any chances." They all had one shared aim now. The adrenaline coursed through him, galvanizing him into action. As Jake moved to usher the patrons outside, he exchanged glances with Alex. Both of them understood the weight of the moment together. It wasn't just flames they were dealing with, it was the looming question of their community's resilience. Would they stand together in the face of this challenge? Outside, the thick gray smoke began to curl into the sky, and the acrid smell of burning wood engulfed them. Jake instinctively pulled Lily closer, shielding her from the unsettling chaos. People gathered, murmuring anxiously, casting nervous glances back at the shower of sparks erupting from the mill. "Do you think it's really going to spread?" Alex asked, a hint of panic catching at the edges of his voice. "Let us hope not," Jake replied, his own doubts scuttling through his mind. Memories of the diner's warm, welcoming atmosphere played against the stark contrast of the mill's fiery destruction. The diner's future was tenuous already. What would happen if they lost this part of their town's heart, too? Suddenly, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as they approached. Relief washed over the crowd, but just as quickly, another wave of fear set in. As the fire trucks arrived and the firefighters unloaded their equipment, Eva turned to Jake, her eyes pleading for collaboration. This could mark a turning point for the diner and the town. If we band together now, it might ignite that spark we talked about. Jake could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. This was bigger than just the diner now. The eyes of the community were on him. Would this become a rallying moment for all of them, or would it all come crashing down from the flames of destruction? In the very heart of fear and uncertainty, could they start to build something new? "Let us do it," Jake said, determination surging through him as they set to work. But deep inside, the ember of anxiety flickered. What if they found they were too late? In the midst of the chaos, as they prepared to fight back against the flames, a figure stepped from the shadows of the crowd. Jake squinted, trying to make out the silhouette approaching with urgency, a storm of emotions following in their wake. Who was it? Would they bring more trouble or an unexpected ally just when they needed it most? The figure stepped closer, and recognition flickered in Jake's mind. It was Marvin, the town's former mayor, a man whose passion for the community never faded even after he left office. He was well respected, but his absence over the years had left a gap that few dared to fill. The firelight danced against his determined features, revealing a mix of concern and urgency. "Jake, we need to start a perimeter," Marvin shouted above the crackling of flames. "We can't let this fire reach the diner or anything else nearby. We need to act quickly." He barely paused, turning to the group gathered around, hands gesturing for attention. "Everyone, I need volunteers. We can use the hose from the diner. We'll create a line to keep the fire contained until the fire department can get it under control. A wave of relief washed over Jake. Marvin's experience could be just what they needed. He felt a surge of hope amidst the chaos, as if Marvin was the spark they needed to ignite their collective courage. He glanced at Lily, her eyes were wide but her body was steady, watching the scene unfold. "Let us do it," Jake echoed, adrenaline kicking in again. "Alex, help me grab the hose." They sprinted back to the diner, hearts racing, knowing that every second mattered. As they worked, Jake felt the community rally together. Familiar faces rushed to support Marvin's plan, filling buckets with water and preparing to douse the flames that dared to lick at the edges of the mill's charred remains. It was as if the panic fostered a shared mission that bonded them all together, weaving a fabric of hope even as disaster threatened to tear it apart. Lily was standing slightly apart, clutching a worn-out teddy bear that was almost too big for her small frame. Jake's heart squeezed at the sight. "You're okay, kiddo?" he asked as he wiped the sweat from his brow. "Are we going to save it, Dad?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Yeah, we're going to try our best," he promised, unsure himself but wanting to project strength. "Just stay close to me, all right?" The community was shouting back and forth, coordinating efforts with an intensity that elevated Jake's spirits. He could see Marvin directing firefighters as they began their own battle against the engulfing flames, but then, an unfamiliar scream cut through the noise. The crowd fell silent for a beat before heads turned toward the mill. A figure was limping from the shadows, eyes wide and skin covered in soot. It was an older man, someone Jake recognized as one of the few remaining workers who had once managed the mill before its decline. "Help!" I was inside. The words spilled from the man's mouth like a confession. As the crowd began to move towards the man, Jake felt a cold wave of dread wash over him. "Wait, has anyone checked for others?" His voice carried urgency, echoing through the crowd. If someone was here, could there be more trapped inside? Marvin's face paled, worry etching lines deeper into his forehead. "Someone check inside, quick!" Just then, a thick plume of smoke belched forth from the mill's entrance, sending a wave of terrified murmurs through the crowd. Jake's heart thundered in his chest. "Jake!" Alex shouted, urgency in his tone. "Should we go in? We can't leave people behind." But as he glanced back at Lily, fear gnawed at him. The choice hung in the air, heavy with the weight of responsibility. He could either run back into the flames or stay and protect the one person he loved most. The decision loomed dangerously close. What if they ran into danger, or worse, didn't he return? Jake felt the fire of determination ignite within him again. "We are doing this," he declared, locking eyes with Alex and Marvin. Then came the moment that would define their bravery. Would they rush into the fire, risking everything to save a community burdened by history, or would they succumb to the very fear that threatened their town? The answer lay just beyond reach, hidden in the smoke that swirled menacingly before them. Jake's mind was a frenzy of fear and courage as he took a step forward, each breath suffused with the acrid smoke that clawed at his lungs. His gaze fixed on the mill, where the flames roared in triumph, hungry to consume more. He felt Alex's hand grip his shoulder tightly, a silent acknowledgement of the shared risk that lay before them. "Let us go!" Alex shouted, his voice barely piercing the tumult of the chaos. They could hear the sirens wailing in the distance, but they knew they couldn't wait. The two of them bolted toward the mill, the heat washing over them like an unforgiving wave. It was surreal. Moments ago, they were mere bystanders. Now, they were willing to throw caution to the wind for the sake of those they didn't even know were still inside. "How do we get in?" Jake asked, the words stumbling out as they approached the main entrance. Flames danced around the edges, licking the doorway like a serpent ready to strike. He could feel his heart racing, pounding out a rhythm that seemed to echo in his ears. "There." Alex pointed to a side entrance. It looked slightly ajar, the door rattling against the frame as if the building were exhaling its last breath. They sprinted toward it, fueled by adrenaline and the desperate hope that there might still be people left behind. Jake pushed the door open against the heat, and they stepped inside. The world narrowed to chaos, the heat, the smoke, the dim flickers of dying light. He could hardly see. "Hello," he called, his voice hoarse. "Is anyone here?" The dense smoke curled around them like a thick fog, choking him. Coughing, he reached for the nearby wall, fingers searching for something solid, something real amidst the chaos. He believed they could still find someone. Then, out of the haze, came a faint sound, moaning, almost a whimper. Jake's heart sank and surged simultaneously as he exchanged a glance with Alex. They moved toward the sound, determination etched on their faces. "Keep calling," Alex urged, voice strained but unwavering. "Is anyone there?" "We're coming," Jake yelled, breaking through a nearby room. The sight nearly knocked the breath from his lungs. A few feet away, a young woman lay curled, her arm pinned beneath a beam. Desperation clawed at him. "We've got to get her out." They rushed toward her, and as they approached, the reality of their situation slammed into Jake like a freight train. The beam was heavy and there was no way to lift it without help. Panic rose within him, but he forced it back down. "Hold on. We're here to help." "Jake, we can't move it alone," Alex said, eyes darting around for anything to assist. "Right?" Jake nodded, thinking fast. "We need a leverage point." Behind him, he noticed a metal crate, likely used for storage. "Help me." They dragged the crate over, struggling under the weight of urgency. As Jake positioned it under the beam, the woman's eyes locked onto his, panic mixed with a glimmer of hope. "Don't give up," Jake whispered to her, the words flowing from a well of empathy deep in his chest. Even as the flames roared louder, seemingly in response to their resolve, they needed one last push, a final act to defy the consuming fire. They mustered their strength, and under the weight of their collective fears and hopes, they heaved the crate upwards. The beam shifted, and the woman gasped as they pulled her free, but just as they began to back away, the building groaned ominously. The ceiling above them creaked, and in an instant, they felt the very fabric of safety rip apart. "Jake! Move!" Alex's shout filled the air with urgency as debris began to rain down around them. Jake's instincts kicked in as he grabbed the woman, urging her to follow. They stumbled through the thick smoke, the heat biting at their skin, hearts racing, each step a desperate grasp at survival. As they reached the exit, Jake glanced back at the crumbling structure, knowing that their lives had just been intertwined with something bigger than themselves. Suddenly, a heavy crash echoed in the distance, a reminder of the precarious balance between hope and despair. The fire was claiming more than just wood and brick. It threatened to consume the soul of their town. Would they make it out alive? Would they find more souls trapped within? As he stepped into the cool night air, an unsettling question hung heavy in the atmosphere. What awaited them outside, and how would they cope with the choices they had just made? Jake stumbled outside, the chilly night air hitting him like a slap after the intense heat of the mill. He gasped, trying to regain his breath while keeping a tight grip on the woman's arm. She leaned against him, her face pale but still alive. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice strained but filled with urgency. She nodded weakly and took a few shaky breaths. Alex joined them, a sheen of sweat and soot covering his brow. "Did we get everyone?" he questioned, scanning the area for any sign of others. The fire belched a plume of black smoke into the night sky, ugly and relentless. I don't know," Jake replied, feeling a flicker of dread settle in the pit of his stomach. There might be more people trapped inside. The thought gnawed at him, making his heart race again. In the distance, the wail of approaching sirens grew louder, but it felt painfully slow, like time had a cruel grip. A crowd began to gather, faces lit by the orange glow of the fire, their neighbors, friends, all watching with a mix of horror and helplessness. The young woman, now catching her breath, looked at Jake with deep gratitude. "Thank you," she rasped, her voice trembling. I thought I was going to die in there." "We've got to go back in," Jake suddenly declared. The words spilled out before he could stop them. They shouldn't risk it, but how could he stand there while there might still be others waiting for help? "Are you crazy?" Alex shot back, disbelief flashing in his eyes. "We just got out. We can't go in there again. I can't just leave them, Jake insisted, the weight of their decision bearing down on him. What if there are still people inside? Alex hesitated, the urgency of the moment wrestling with common sense. He knew they were running out of time. I'm going in, Jake stated firmly, his resolve hardening. He took a step back toward the mill. The gathered crowd murmured, worried whispers wafting through the air like shadows. Wait, Alex said, grabbing his arm, desperation in his eyes. If we go in, we have to go together. You want to make it alone? Jake met Alex's gaze, searching for understanding. We should have already been back to help. We can't just stand around. Then let us do it together, Alex replied, determination taking its place among the dust and fear. They nodded at the woman, who was trying to push herself up. Stay here, we'll get more help. She called after them, the resolve in her voice buoying Jake's faltering spirit. As they moved toward the mill again, adrenaline surged, mingling with fear, but Jake felt fear push itself into a corner of his mind. They were going to fight for those still trapped inside. Shouldering into the smoke once more, the roar of fire surrounded them again, but the sight of silhouettes battling against the smoky darkness rallied their hearts. They couldn't back down now. The thought of someone helpless inside spurred them forward, inching deeper into the inferno. Keep calling, Alex urged. We need to make sure they can hear us. Is anyone there? Jake shouted, his voice echoing in the vast cacophony. We're coming to get you. Hope mingled with the fear turning in his gut. They pressed ahead, visions of flames flickering in their periphery, the noise of crackling wood a cruel soundtrack. Then, in the haze of despair, a muffled cry floated to them, sending a jolt of adrenaline through Jake. Over here. He shared a glance with Alex, the resolve between them solid as steel. They moved toward the sound. But would they find what they sought? Or was the fire claiming yet another part of their town? As they ran closer to the noise, a heavy thud shook the ground. Jake's heart plummeted. Was the building about to collapse around them? They couldn't turn back now. The fire was relentless. Time was slipping away. Would they reach those in need before it was too late? Jake's heart raced as he and Alex drew closer to the muffled cries. The heat was fierce, wrapping around them like a living thing, making it hard to breathe. Each step felt heavier than the last, but they couldn't turn back. Not now. Hello. Can you hear us? Alex shouted as they ventured deeper into the smoke. The thick air clawed at their throats, it took everything in them to keep pushing forward. The cries grew louder, weaving in and out like the flames threatening to consume them. Over here. Please. The voice was weak, trembling, but it held unmistakable urgency. Just hold on. We're coming. Jake yelled, trying to sound stronger than he felt. But his own voice felt small amid the roar of the blaze. The flames danced wildly, silhouetting the structure ahead. Panic surged through Jake as he caught a glimpse of the wall buckling under the heat. He could see a shadow through the crack of a door, the faint outline of someone huddled below. Back this way. Jake pointed to a side entrance, slightly ajar, the only promising escape route they had. They pushed through, adrenaline propelling them forward. As they neared the door, a sudden crash echoed. Dust and debris rained down around them. Jake gasped, comprehension dawning. Alex, we need to hurry. They lunged into the room, the walls flickering with fiery light. The air stung, filled with soot and desperation. In the corner, a man lay crumpled, clutching a terrified child. Help! Please help us! His voice was a mere whisper, laced with fear. What happened? Jake asked, his hands reaching out to help him stand. They were trapped, couldn't he get out? I couldn't find the way. The man's eyes were wide, glazed with panic. Hang on. We'll get you both out. Alex encouraged, checking the child. A girl, no more than 5, was sobbing, her little body trembling. Jake's heart cracked wide open. It's okay, sweetheart. We've got you, he said softly, kneeling to her level. He took her small hand, the warmth of it grounding him in the chaos. It was hard to think. The smoke thickened, swirling ominously. They could already sense the building shifting under them. "We need to move, now," Jake urged, glancing at Alex, who was hoisting the man to his feet with the father supporting his daughter. They moved towards the door. They were close, so close until the floor groaned around them, a deep, bone-chilling creak that froze Jake in his tracks. "Quick!" Alex called, urging them on, pushing past the trepidation clinging to them like the smoke. But before they could reach the exit, a beam above let out a shrill shriek, splintering as it began to collapse. The fiery breath of the inferno roared, surging toward them like a predator ready to strike. "Get down!" Jake shouted, instinctively throwing his body over the little girl. The impact knocked the wind from him as debris tumbled down, a shower of fire and wood. The world around them erupted into chaos. Flashes of light flared as the flames roared for more heat, more lives. Jake gasped, coughing as smoke filled his lungs, his mind racing. They weren't safe yet. Not at all. A moment later, he felt the girl press against him, trembling. "Are you okay?" he whispered, forcing his voice to come even while fear roared in his heart. "Help!" she cried, her small hand clutching his shirt. He looked at Alex, eyes wide with fear and determination. They had to get out. They had to move, now, but the fire was hungry. Time was slipping away faster than the air they were gasping for. Jake's instincts screamed to flee, but there were still lives hanging by a thread. Would they find a way out, or would the flames win this battle? Suddenly, a shrill scream pierced through the chaos. A mother. A friend. Jake felt the weight of choices pressing down. They had come in for one, but they couldn't leave anyone behind. They might not survive this. The fire shifted ominously, but there was a spark of hope to what awaited them as they fought for survival. Would they find a way to escape the blaze, or would the flames claim them all? The heat was relentless, and Jake's lungs burned with every ragged breath he took. The world around him had condensed into a cacophony of fire and chaos, but he clung to the light of purpose that flickered stubbornly within him. "We have to move!" Jake shouted, urging everyone onward. Behind him, he could hear the overwhelmed sobs of the little girl he shielded. He met her pleading eyes, full of fear, and he felt a surge of determination. They couldn't be consumed by panic. They had to fight for this moment. Alex led the way, carefully navigating through the thin slivers of hope that remained. They stumbled over debris, Jake's heart pounding in sync with the fear that echoed in the smoky air. He held onto the girl's small hand, feeling her grip tighten as they weaved between the flames, reaching out like skeletal hands, hungry and relentless. "Is everyone all right?" he called out, trying to keep the panic at bay. The father beside him looked pale, shock etched across his face, but there was a fierce, determined glint in his eyes, a shared understanding that compelled them to push through. They were fighting for each other, for lives that mattered more than the walls that sheltered them. A loud crash echoed behind, a foreboding reminder that time was slipping through their fingers. "Keep going!" Jake shouted again, adrenaline surging. Suddenly, Alex stumbled. Jake whipped around to see him clutching his knee, pain flashing across his features. "I'm fine. Just a sprain," he grunted, but Jake could see the pain reflected in his eyes. He was almost ready to turn back and help him up when a violent roar of flames flared up, and they were forced to move or get trapped. "Alex, go!" Jake urged. "We can't stay here." The urgency of impending danger pushed them all forward, deeper into the furnace of uncertainty. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of navigating the chaos, they reached a side window, the framing barely hanging on. The night sky loomed ahead, but getting there meant risking everything. "We'll have to boost her up," Jake said, looking earnestly at the father who clung protectively to his daughter. Weakly, the father nodded, desperation thickening the air around them. "We'll lift her first," Jake said, locking eyes with the father. "Get ready to follow." Heart pounding in anticipation, Jake hoisted the child up, lifting her high over the brimming fire where smoke coiled like a malicious serpent. "Climb!" the father urged, his voice strong despite his trembling. The girl scrambled toward freedom, reaching for the night air. Just as she got a hold on the sill, the building rattled menacingly again. The noise sent a fresh wave of dread through Jake. Would they get stuck here too? Now! He yelled. As the father followed after his daughter, Jake felt hope surge within him. Yet, they were still not out of danger. The air thickened with smoke, and the beams above them groaned dangerously. With his heart racing, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him, a cruel reminder of their precarious situation. Alex, we need to jump. Now! Jake shouted as the flames licked at their heels. He took Alex's arm, their combined resolve pushing them toward the window's escape. Without another thought, the two of them leaped, crashing into the cool embrace of the night air below. They landed hard, the impact jolting through Jake's body, but he was still alive, still breathing. Around him, people rushed forward, the crowd growing as more and more gathered to help. Hands reached down, pulling the terrified father and little girl out to safety as gasps of relief followed each escape. Thank you, the father exclaimed, fear and gratitude intertwining in his voice as he clutched his daughter tightly. Tears of joy streamed down the girl's face as she hugged her dad, her small body shaking but safe. Jake's heart swelled as he watched them embrace. Yet, sweat dripped down his face, and he felt breathless, still haunted by thoughts of what they had faced. Just as Jake turned to face Alex, tears of relief streaming down his cheeks, he saw the fire illuminating the fear in the eyes of their community gathered in solidarity. This moment had brought them all together, bouncing back in the face of despair. A piercing siren wailed closer, a sign of the firefighters finally approaching. But even more powerful than that was the unspoken connection that formed between them all. It was a reminder that community was their greatest strength. Their lives, their hopes, forged together in the crucible of adversity, an enduring spirit that would rise again, even from the ashes. Jake felt the weight of his journey lifting as tears of joy flowed. This is just the beginning, he whispered to himself as he looked out into the crowd filled with neighbors, friends, and family. And as those flames flickered behind him, he realized they were not just fighting against the destruction, they were igniting a rebirth, a testament to resilience, hope, and the power of standing together. In the murky depths of their struggle, they had not only saved lives, they had reignited the spirit of their town and reaffirmed the love shared among them. The dawn would break over this town, and Jake knew it would be brighter than ever, shining with the brightest light of all community and connection. As he stepped back into the warmth of arms that loved him, he understood he was not just a survivor, he was home. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that uplift and transform. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the content you love. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this inspiring transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.